haptic means touch. You don't remember anything else today. This is your key takeaway, right? There's gonna be a clip on this. Haptic means touch. And digital has become so synonymous with visual and audio. What that means is that that's basically most of the information we're consuming is going through just 40% of the human capacity to understand information. Now, that isn't just inaccessible, it's a traffic jam, right? As we get more and more information being crammed into fewer and fewer senses. So, a lot of people didn't know what the word haptic meant for a long, long time. So, I wrote a rap about it. I'm gonna perform that rap for you today, okay? This is my friend, two-time blind Paralympian Keith Price. He's also the producer of the rap. You know, before I put the rap out, I had to get consultation from the community, make sure I wouldn't get canceled by anything I said. And instead of getting canceled, I got a partner. So produced by Marquis Price, AKA Sonic P. And the idea is, can I use an unconventional way to teach people about haptics?
We have a vision.
We have a vision.
We have a vision.
We have a vision of a world that doesn't need vision, elevate and touch to the level of sight and sound, and that's our mission. Research spending. Today is access tomorrow for all of our children. Look at the spending. Over the last 100 years, spread over each of the 5 of our senses. Seeing is believing. Yep, most went to vision, second went to sound, which is pretty far distant. For over 100 years, money only spent on 2 senses. Isn't that senseless? That is just senseless. It's my 2 cents, and vision is king and touch is in prison. Patriarch of all the senses of sight really made that decision. Who the F made that decision? No one with limited vision, none of the 285 million. And with a hearing of 460 million folks with limited hearing, digital, so sight and sound driven, that it left like $1 billion on the wrong side of a digital divide with virtually no pocket pissing. The teacher is touch, that's our mission. Where works is half, they touch with the weight and intention of dramatically making a difference. You need to listen. The story about this song is I used to be a rapper when I was 16, or I wanted to be. I didn't think I was that good, so I did something else in my life. All great. But wanted to see if I could do something with this to bring this into my world. Haptics, so open-ended, new beginnings. It's like no rules are written. You can do anything if you just have a vision. Pun intended. So prior knowledge and few restrictions. So much to learn. It's like my new addiction. The real world, the strange, adding a new dimension to the human existence. Touch new kids on the block, more like a new addition. It might seem a bit distant, but in 10 years, every device built will have haptics already embedded in it. This is my mission. I'm a haptician. A what? A tactician of touch. Bruce Lee's 1-inch punch. When tapping, you'll feel the difference. Been standing for 9 years in haptics. Grinding relentless, made history, helping a blind runner finish the New York Marathon without sighted assistance. We touched down on a touchdown. Now bear witness.
We have a vision.
And so ultimately, South by Southwest were investors of mine. And I let them hear the first verse, and it was like, you gotta perform this song at your company update at South by. And I was like, I told you I've never written a rap before, right? So how'd you get in this? So real life and fiction. So the Matrix 1,000 times, so my future envision. Building a suit to download and learn Kung Fu, that was my entrance. Then we made it a business, subtracted complexity, then added in making a difference. The recipe to build an industry that will be valued in trillions. I'm trying to find my elders with hope that it takes a village. My haptic signals in the sky, come and find me if you feel it. Thank you. Sorry, I was supposed to check with the caption plan. Oh, they were? Oh, yes. I was like, oh. No, accessibility is a learning time constantly, and even those of us that are in the space, we make mistakes all the time, so that's part of the work. And like, just being able to own up to that is also a big part of the work too. So wanted to share that authentic moment. Now, my goal is to make haptics ubiquitous. And I say ubiquitous, I mean affordable, accessible, and approachable. Right, why? Because there are 285 million people for whose sight isn't their predominant sense of taking in information. When we add in the 460 million people with severe hearing loss, we're looking at almost 1 billion people that are being left out of our current digital conversations because of the reliance or over-reliance on sight and sound. Now, my solution is hey, sound, digital, audio, and visual, touch is universal. Bring touch into existing interactions, offload some of the visual information and audio information so you don't need 100 heads-up display icons to look at to determine what thing you need to look at, or you don't have to constantly have someone talking in your ear telling you to turn left in 30 feet. So I built a company to try to do some work with this, and it was called WearWorks. And we started off in haptic navigation. Now I'm gonna show you a little video around what it is that we did. It just gets to the point way faster than I can, right? But ultimately, we built a band and a haptic navigation app that ultimately helped the first person who was blind run the New York City Marathon without needing a sight running guy. So this was a bit of our story, also narrated by David Steele, AKA the Blind Poet. He's from the UK. He happened to be in town, and I was like, David, I need someone's voice that's not mine to do this video. He dropped in for 8 hours, got it done, memorized, and like was on a flight, you know, right after the thing. So shout out to David for getting this done.
We built an entirely new way to navigate, one that gets you out of your phone and back to the real world. We are WearWorks, an innovative design company. We build products and experiences that communicate. We built an entirely new way to navigate, one that gets you out of your phone and back to the real world. We are WearWorks, an innovative design company. We build products and experiences that communicate information through touch. Navigation is inherently visual. This means you have to constantly juggle your attention between looking at your phone and seeing what's in front of you. And for the 21 million of us living with a visual impairment, it's even more profound. Navigation takes away the ability to hear what is going on around you, and that is how you keep yourself safe. Introducing Wayband, a wrist-wearable haptic navigation device that delivers turn-by-turn navigation directly to the skin. What this means for you is an intuitive navigation experience that frees your ears and eyes so you can be fully immersed in what's going on around you. At the core of Wayband is our patented haptic corridor. We've built a 360-degree touch-based compass that gives you vibrational feedback based on the direction you're facing. When you are going the correct way, you feel no feedback. When you turn away from the correct path, you get a slight vibration. That vibration gets stronger the wronger you are. We've tested with thousands of people. 90% can figure out the correct way to go in 10 seconds. It's that simple. We began 5 years ago with the question, how can we use touch to deliver information in a more intuitive, less intrusive way? And we began our exploration with navigation. And then in March of 2017, we were approached with the ultimate challenge. Simon Wheatcroft is an athlete. He dreamed of running solo, the largest marathon in the world. And on November 5th, just 8 months after our initial call, Simon, guided by Wayband, went down in history as the first person who is blind to run the New York City Marathon without sighted assistance. We talked to hundreds of people about their challenges with visual-based navigation. Across the board, it was the same. They wanted to get out of the device and back into their lives. It's easy. Setup is simple. Open the Wayband app, turn on the Wayband device to the end. After that, you input the address, confirm, once you move on the web. Touch, personal. So we built the ability to adjust the feedback level based on your comfort. Researchers and developers use APIs to connect Wayband as a peripheral device to explore and create custom haptic experiences, games, and applications. Wayband gives you the confidence and the freedom to explore your world and explore your web. And go anywhere with Wayband.
So why did we do this? Because we realized that over 1 billion people use navigation apps monthly, but they're all limited to a mainly visual secondary audio experience. And sometimes looking at your phone isn't safe. Sometimes it's not practical, say oftentimes. And for 285 million people, it's a real problem. So we invented Wayband and Haptic Nav, a navigation app that's totally available for free that you can download on the iOS store right now. And also available in beta on Android. Type in where you want to go, get vibrations to where you want to go, never have to look at your phone. And if you happen to have the Wayband device, you get a hands-free experience. Now, this is our patented haptic compass. The way it works is as you're slightly running to the side, you get a slight vibration that nudges you to get back on track. Now, this works great for people who are blind or visually impaired. It also works great when you're in a new country and you have no idea where you're going and you don't want to look like an idiot spinning in circles. We basically did something very simple. We took haptics and combined it with maps. And we got patented because no one had ever thought to do that before. Now, I want to speak to this part very strongly because a lot of people are like, wow, you're doing good. No, it's good business. It's not just, they're philanthropic. Yes, we want to be philanthropic in our way of doing things. We want to be impactful in our missions, but at the end of the day, like there is a ridiculous amount of disposable income within the disabilities community and not enough products or services currently being addressed to them. So that means that whoever figures this out is in for a whirlwind of an opportunity from a point of view of revenue. Not just about doing good, it's good business. And we raised over $1.5 million with our company. And my company is still running and my co-founder is still running it. I stepped away because we had to take a software direction and I wanted to do hardware and my investors didn't like that so much. So I decided that I'd work on something else. But in the meantime, we had artists, athletes, authors, the who's who of the blind community in our space giving us feedback. And basically, Simon, who's our marathon runner, said, don't discount the power of just keeping a person on a straight path. Like that in and of itself is a feat, right? So that's what we did with WhereWorks. And now I'm in Kansas City. What am I doing here? The Leonard Pryor Fellowship is what brought me here. I'm here as the Leonard Pryor Fellow representing inclusion, diversity, equity, accessibility, and sustainability as a visiting artist for 2 years. I'm in my 2nd year now, and my role was mainly around accessibility. So I came here, I used to have hair, don't get too attached to that look. I came here with the goal of spreading accessibility and the message within the art making community and the design community and the overall greater Kansas City area. So what have I been doing since I've been here? Trying to sneak accessibility into art exhibitions. I realized I was at the School of Visual Arts and I'm a touch designer. What am I doing here? And I saw like, wow, most of art, even though you have to make it with your hands, you can't touch any of it. What if we could change that? So the first exhibition that I was part of was the 6th biennial, which was at ArtsKC. I exhibited 3 pieces of work as part of a group show. One was something that you could feel, which was a haptic egg that I believe actually made it on tour to the Nelson here as part of the Access Plus Ability exhibition. One was the haptic rap and audio with a video attached. And one was what I call the Little Book of Haptic Objects, deeply inspired by George Washington Carver's work, who grew up not too far away from here. He built a book that had 105 uses for the peanut, and I decided that no one knew what the word haptic was, so I would build a book that had 105 uses for haptics. By the time of the exhibition, I have 37, now I have over 130. Right. I worked on this solo exhibition called The Invisible Hand, where I was bringing people into a work in process exhibition. I let them see the inside of how I use the design process to build a way of learning movement through haptics. Essentially, I went down low kung fu. And it was an open dialogue into like what that process looks like. And I invited members of the community to contribute their ideas, thoughts, made a lot of wonderful connections and made a lot of wonderful partners to continue to work with. And then Tactility, which was an art exhibition that I curated. Tactility was an open call that allowed artists to submit works of art that could be touched. So what I found is that sometimes even when artists submit works to be touched, galleries, there's no space for that one piece of work or context for that work to be touched and all have the work around it not be touched. So a lot of times, even when the artist is making work to be touched, sometimes they get a no from the space that they're putting it at. So I wanted to create a space that was safe for artists to contribute works that could be handled. And more importantly, so that people can come and handle the artwork. One of my favorite visits was when the Kansas State School for the Blind came with about 20 students, and they had a blast. People had artwork on their heads. I didn't necessarily expect that, but I did say you couldn't do it. So it was a learning process and it was a fantastic one. And this little QR code right here, there's more around to the QR code, but they're the digital guide to the whole thing, because in order to make it accessible for my people who are blind and visually impaired, printing in Braille was just way too hard. So I created a completely digital guide so that you can go over it with voiceover on your cell phones, if you happen to need them. Now, I've also got to get to do some teaching while I was here, right? My favorite class, Haptics 101. So what I realized is that if we had this $1 billion dream, no one would go, I have no one to hire because haptics wasn't a major that you could hire people from. And so I realized that I learned the word engineer at 12, I learned the word artist at 6, I learned the word haptic at 33. In the middle of my 3rd degree program. Who's gonna change their whole life when they hear this word in the middle of their 3rd degree? No one but me, right? So in order to get really good talent, we need to introduce this word to people in undergrad when they are starting their careers and they have the opportunity to boil in, even if they don't become haptic designers, to sneak in haptic concepts and ideas to their uppers when they get their jobs building the industry. I'm teaching senior thesis, Design Space 5. One of my students is actually working on an accessibility-based project where he's looking at wayfinding solutions in furniture for people who are blind and visually impaired. He's doing fantastic work on that project. And, Design Space 5 is all around the student-led, pushing their own limits, and me just kind of supporting them through that process. And lastly, one of the classes that I'm really excited about that I'm teaching was superpowered products, which takes fiction and turns it into products that people can use. My whole thing is that in the pages of Marvel, we have hundreds of years of innovation. Just take a superpower and turn it into a product. Our wayband is like Daredevil on a sick day, right? You know what I'm saying? Superhuman healing, maybe not the adamantium bones, right? But you get it, right? Take a super ability, try to make it real, solve a real problem with it, and all of a sudden, the best part is that you can't patent fiction. Unless you make it real, so they can't patent fiction. So, maybe the Iron Man suit is patented, I'm sure, but everything else, up for grabs, right? Now, so Haptic 9, what am I doing with this Haptic 9 company? I realized that this accessibility and the bridges to the haptic world where they were not being built collectively by groups. And I saw that there was a bigger problem that needed to be addressed. So I wanted to create a problem that crosses these 9 bridges or builds these 9 bridges that allows us to get touched into the digital world. Now, I won't go into the details around them. Part of the experience is immersion, there's responsiveness, there's wearability. These are some of the challenges that need to be addressed. Personalization, accessibility, culture. We saw what happened when you make things Google Glass, right? When the culture's not ready, your product fails, even if your product is okay and might work. Ethics, touch is really personal. There's a lot of trauma associated with touch as well. And so making sure that we're doing that part of it right is super important. Making standardization so that haptics don't feel different on Android than they feel on Apple, than they feel on, Huawei, than they feel on whoever else. And sustainability, of course, as we make more and more things, how are we looking at things at the end of life? So wrapping that all up into something more significant, I decided to focus on starting with something that was impossible, which is downloading Kung Fu. Now, I talked about The Matrix, right? One of my favorite movies ever. If you haven't seen it, it should be one of your favorite movies as well. Go home and watch it this weekend if you have not seen it. But 20 years it took us to get a hoverboard. 20 years and we still can't download Kung Fu. So I'm here to change that, right? Movement is still learned in the way that music was listened to before the invention of the phonograph in 1877. What if movement learners were given digital powers, right? Beyonce could roll out of bed and make $1 million by the end of the day because we have music distribution and, music streaming, right? Before that, she would have to go to all of our houses individually and collect our dollar. That would have been almost impossible for her to do. But that's what movement professionals still have to do to make their dollar. What if their movement was digitized too? What if they can roll out of bed, make something, and then send it around digitally to a similar following, to a similar distribution, and you can embody a person's movement directly from them. So no more learning Kung Fu from Bruce Lee's student, but learning Kung Fu from Bruce Lee himself. I'll get to questions at the end. Thank you so much. You can hold that for me. What if movement teachers would be given digital powers, right? And that is the whole thing, because movement is data. And more importantly, we have a collective cultural history that we can expand upon, that we don't protect like we do with books. I can read Shakespeare, I can listen to Ella Fitzgerald, right? I can look at Picasso because we preserve their work. But movement, unless someone learns that movement, it disappears. So I want to give movement the same protection that we give to all of our other media and culture. So that's my goal, the largest digital library in the world, and that's kind of what I'm doing here in the space around haptics. But now, jumping back into what it is that we're talking about today, there's also a value of starting with the obviously possible, right? And so one of the things that we're gonna work on is we're gonna look at some common accessibility fixes. We're gonna have you do some ideation. Now, ideation is this thing in design that we call, basically you can't say the word no. So every idea is possible. It's like improv. It's like yes and. I'm gonna do this and like we're gonna fly on the moon and like, you know, then people can float and like we don't need wheelchair ramps, right? Cool, right? That is a yes for now. Now, tomorrow when you try to implement it, you look at no and you figure out what doesn't work. But for today, no stops the conversation. So we're just gonna yes, right? And build ideation. So you're gonna have about 10 minutes to do about 10 concepts or ideations. Now, the thing is that you don't spend too much time on them. You don't dig into the weeds. Like 1 minute, you give it and you move on to the next one, right? And then I'm gonna have you grab an accountability partner because I want you to do something that is very doable within range of the next month. So in the next few weeks, you're gonna grab an accountability partner, somebody you don't know, someone that's not part of your organization, because you guys can have the same reason for not getting stuff done, right? Different organization, total stranger, and you're gonna be like accountable to each other. Like, hey, did you do the thing or try to do the thing? What did you run into? How did it all work out, right? So what I'd like for you to do is, if you are sitting with too many people that you know, or if there are too many people at the table that aren't your organization, I'd like for you all to do like a slight reshuffle. If you don't know the people next to you, all fantastic. Feel free to stay where you are. Of course, if you have any mobility challenges, we'll come to you. You don't have to get up, right? But I'll give you a few seconds. And while you're spinning around, I want to talk to you about some frameworks to get you into the state of mind of designing, all right? Okay, ready? Go. I'll give you like 5 minutes. I'll talk to you. All right. So some of them. I'll let you get introduced. See your thing.
Oh, good. Good. I'm from the.
All right, it looks like everybody has some tables. I'm gonna let you do introductions in a second. But really quickly, I want to walk you through a few frameworks around how you might go about approaching. Now, these are my personal frameworks. They may not work for you. You don't go to the supermarket and buy everything. Just take what you need, okay? So the first thing is I call this finding my 3 words. I have taught this to students, to businesses, to nonprofits, to people going through literal depression. And what I've taught them is that, you know, at this intersection of 3 words, 3 things that you probably enjoy doing, there is something amazing there that only you can do, or only a few people like you can do. When I did this exercise for myself, I realized that at the intersection of fashion, technology, and human movement, I was just deeply interested in everything that was in that circle. I did a project at the Met, I copied a garment, put it on a runway model that had motion capture data so people can see what the garment looked like in motion instead of on the hanger, right? I took that same 3 words to my thesis and I tried to build a Kung Fu suit. I brought those 3 words to accessibility and I built a wearable band that helped people who are blind navigate. right? I've been doing the same thing for the last decade. It just looks different to other people because they don't know my 3 words. Right? So I'm sharing this frame of work with you. Like at the intersection of your 3 words, there's something awesome that you can do uniquely. Now, the other thing is that, as a designer, you really got to get in touch with yourself. Like really, really, like you can't be a great designer if you don't know you. And I think that the biggest fallacy that we live by is that as humans, we have to present a unified identity to the world or we look crazy. So So we present this unified front, and oftentimes we're silencing the multiple dimensions of ourselves to be that unified front. What I'm saying in this day, for today, I mean, for all of life, you should do this, but just for today, right, you're gonna let those inner selves come out, right? Some of them may be a bit more talkative, some of them may be quiet, right? I go through this exercise with students and businesses where I have the people name who their people are. Because then you know who you're dealing with, you know who you're talking to, you know who you need to convince, and more importantly, you have your own board of internal advisors that you can call on for any project that you need to get done or anytime you need advice. It's fantastic. I have this sticker on my board that says, the voices aren't real, but they have pretty good ideas, right? Now, from that, I built these 11 design principles. From those 9 people, I asked them, what do you want to do for design in life? And here's what they told me, right? First, find the fun. Second, focus on impact. Third, detach from external validation. 4, use platforms to promote others. 5, believe in the way you've chosen. 6, create the future with your own body. 7, pack the bag, go to path. 8, expect magic along the journey. This one's important because most people are expecting things to fall apart. When things actually go great, they have no idea what to do. They're like totally lost, right? You know what I'm saying? Feelings are facts. That's what I had to learn. That was a hard lesson to learn, that people's feelings are not their opinions. They are their facts. And you have to treat them as their facts, even if those facts are incorrect. Share the truth kindly without giving your favorite expletive here, you know what I'm saying? And create work that others can learn from, right? So while you're going through your process, I want you to think of these processes. If you get stuck, bring it out of you, right? And a simple note on accessibility is the brush tool in Adobe Photoshop. Now, as a person who paid for Photoshop back in the day when it was like $400 or $500 per program, I was like, why is there so many buttons to get to the brush? Like, I can press the B tool, there's an icon, hover from the thing, it's like 900 ways to get to the brush tool. And I thought that Adobe was wasting my money, like charging me extra for features I didn't need. But what Adobe was really doing was understanding that their audience is highly neurodivergent, and they were offering multiple access points to get to the same tool so that like whatever way works best for you, if you're a graphical visual person, you can use the icon. If you're a keyboard shortcut person, you can press the B button. If you need hierarchies and menus, you can go through, tools, right? That's a long way, right? But whatever works for you, you get to find the brush tool in your way. Right? And so I like to say that like really accessibility is creating multiple points of access. Right? And now here's my my link tree. You can like grab all the videos, the rap song, some other content, and there's a slight little cheat sheet here if you get super stuck. I had ChatGPT like put together a list of the 15 most common web and built environment accessibility fixes and their solutions and references to get them fixed. So, if you want to cheat, that's allowed in design, right? You know what I'm saying? As long as you come up with a good solution that works for people, where you get the information from is okay, right? So now, that's the same QR code, it takes you to the same place. Now.
He's lost the captions.
Oh,
I don't know.
testing? Oh,
I'm kidding. But it was really.
perfect, 1 second. Testing, 1, 2, 3.
Right.
There we go. Okay, fantastic. So now, what we're going to do here is we're going to spend 5 minutes, right? You got some index cards on your table, right? Everybody find them? Yeah, perfect, perfect. Love to see movement. That's my jam. Okay. Now what we're going to ask to do is we want you to spend the next 5 minutes just thinking about some of the accessibility issues that you've heard about at your organization or that you've experienced personally, either at your organization or at another place, right? We just want to get you kind of jotting down, you know, just getting your mind warmed up into like, what are some of the accessibility issues? After that, I'm gonna set a timer for 5 minutes, and then you're gonna have 5 minutes to share with your table, kind of what you found, so that everybody can get inspired by your ideas, all right? And then after that, we'll go into the ideation part. Everybody ready?
No. How many do we need? Okay.
Set a timer for 5 minutes and 10 seconds. All right, go.
Right. Yeah. One of the biggest things other than.
Now, maybe you got, I'm just not to over talk, maybe there's some pieces that fit the bill, right? Maybe you got an email from someone that says this form that you asked people to fill out isn't accessible. I did that once. I sent out a form to 200 people who were blind and visually impaired, and then realized that the service that I was using, they couldn't use it. Again, accessibility is all about making mistakes, learning from what you do, and then like sharing those learnings with everyone else so that, you know, people don't have to make the same mistakes with you. Maybe it's something as simple as like getting in and out of the door of the building. Right? Automatic doors are really nice when they work. Maybe adding lever door handles to the doors so that they're more easily accessible to open and close. Maybe it's something as simple as making sure all your content has captions and stopping the show when the captions stop working.
Good lesson.
All right, we have about 1 minute left. Maybe you need to organize your company documents with proper headings and text so that Screen readers can read them very easily. Maybe it's setting up prints with larger fonts. Beep, okay, pencils down. Drop them, all of them, let me hear them. Yeah, this is how. You remember. All right. How'd you do? Was it easy to find stuff?
Oh my God, yes.
That's great. You see how much work you have to do? Good business to be in, right? Okay, so now what I want you to do is I want you to spend the next 5 minutes and sharing round robin style, your ideas around the table. So if you have 5 people at your table, give everybody about 1 minute. You know, if you have less, then you can talk more. All right, I'll give you
Okay,
5 minutes,
Amanda.
starting now. Go.
So I knew from the minute we started talking, I was just all the things that could be right in games. So I started out with even attending a ballet performance. We're not doing anything so that anybody really is putting a tape, even understand. Right. Every music. Hey, this is connected with one of the most like fantastic experiences. So I am a professional ballerina. I know some of you are wondering, how are you performing for a Black man? We were all just like, it just broke the ice. Like, yes, what the hell is happening? Says, well, here's the thing for me. I can hear you breathing. I hear the music and I can hear your feet, the rhythm of your feet on the floor. And I get, the wind is moving in the room. When you come by me, I can see what you're doing. Oh, that's right. And so we need to think about more things like that. But now that's in an up close and personal kind of setting, but how do you replicate that in a, 1,500 seat house? Yeah. So certainly there's to be. I'm just, I'm taking class, there's no handrails. So also I'm back and forth between the professional world and I teach at university here. We don't have any handrails. Once you get in, you push that button and the door flies open, between there and the entrance to the theater, there's nothing to guide you there. We don't have people guiding you there, so they can use that. And then let's say a student is visually impaired in my class. I don't have any way to teach them without them seeing what I'm doing. I have no way to give assignments to them. I couldn't choreograph. So this is just so exciting. It's like, and then think about this.
All right, we got about 6 minutes left.
Okay, I gotta stop. Are you saying I'm full of it? Let me hear something. No,
Right?
let's hear you.
Yeah, we're talking about like doing shows because we do, and with whatever puppets, so we do shows, and the Kansas School of the Blind asked us to come in, and so we've been like trying to think of like, how do you do a touch tour of what are essentially essentially little works of art that are really hard to let people touch. So we're like coming up with little boards for them to do touch tours, learning all of that. But then also like on top of that, how do we, we are in Perk 39 and the old Flex Pod, used to be called Flex Pod, Old Westport Middle School, and it is a labyrinth. It is stairs everywhere, and you have to take like 5 elevators to get to where we are without using stairs. So it's like, how do you, if you don't know where we are, how do you get to where we are? It's just like even simple things like that.
Yes, yeah.
So, I'll stop for a minute. What do you guys?
I work at the whole person, so.
Oh, yeah.
It's a little
That's
hard to think of things. I'm like,
right?
like, what are
That's
we
what
missing?
you want.
Yeah. And I work in the marketing department too, so definitely like marketing focused, but one of the big ones is, and even Lily over there, she works there as well, and she has no vision, and she's also kind of questioning this as well. I work with the Acrobat to make everything readable for screen readers.
Yeah.
For anyone that's blind or vision, but oftentimes like she'll come back and ask like, can you convert that word doc? Or like sometimes people's screen readers, depending on what they're using, doesn't always match with what Adobe Acrobat is using. So like, I don't know if there's other software you could be using, or like we need to find better ways to make screen readers work. with either that or, yeah,
Right.
that's been a challenge. There tends to be some company announcements that are on the phone, so
Great.
anybody that's not.
Two, one.
Yeah, no, that's-
All right, pause right there.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah.
Yeah, a good one.
Fantastic. Congratulations. You've gotten to dig in on some stuff, you've gotten to share some stuff. Now, question, how many people found that they had similar things at their table that they were talking about as common accessibility issues? Is that a good amount? There's some tables had a lot of different varying ideas, huh? Amazing, fantastic, this is great. Okay, so now here's what we're gonna do. I want you to, I know you had a card with quite a few of them on it. I want you to star one of the ones that you really, really like. And we're gonna fold it up, we're gonna collect them and put them in a hat.
One for the table, one for person.
Oh, wait, that's right, yes, one for the table, sorry, okay, so here's what I want you to do. I want you to spend the next few seconds, picking one issue from the table that you all wanna represent for yourselves. And then you're gonna put that one onto a separate card, and then we're gonna put that into a hat, and then we're gonna give it to a different team, and they're gonna work on your problems. And then you're gonna work on problems from a different table that have nothing to do with you. Yeah, this is great, right? You know, it's like double blind studies, you know, like, that's how we do it. Okay, so I'll give you about 2 minutes. Collaborate on which idea you feel like you wanna put on the card together and write it down and fold it up. Okay?
I like the communication
Yeah.
announcements for all abilities.
Yeah.
I really, because I was thinking how students could miss it. It works in the theater and it works in the professional world and it works in college. That would be nice.
You mean like digital or like verbal announcements or?
Well, many different ways, like an important information that the whole community needs to know, not just on the phone.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that makes sense. Like, how do you make wide scale announcements?
You might be struggling of what idea to make, but that's okay.
Right?
Whatever idea you pick is gonna make the world more acceptable than it was before. So you're a win no matter what. All right, we got about 1 minute left. The line's gonna come around and collect all the cards from you. If you're ready, feel free to raise your card up now, we'll come and get it.
How do you make important announcements for all your communities? Does that cover it? For all.
Sorry.
I don't know if we'd be able to add like
Not just,
i.e.
yeah,
Right,
I,
visual, maybe on TV,
Yeah.
email.
So everyone, like, and also so everyone
Right,
gets
15
access at the
seconds.
same time, because like, when, that's one of the great things about doing like one of those like phone announcements, is like everyone gets it at the same
Everyone
time.
wants their experience.
Right? And there's like,
And then like, we're never gonna.
All right, 3, 2, 1. All right, let's get them written down.
and there's, I know there's a better word for that, non-ambulatory.
All right, so now the next part of our plan is you get to work on an idea that you didn't have anything to do with.
Thank
Which is
you.
great. Great training for design, not to be too attached to either the problem or the solution. Right, everyone have their card ready to go.
Yeah, we're thinking about ways, things that would be improved. Yeah.
You could
We-
touch.
If every
No.
sensibility.
Lana, did you already give out?
How would you make it so that everybody?
Okay, perfect, so now, you just got a card. There's a problem on it. Maybe it's one of the problems that your group was already thinking about. Maybe it's a totally different problem.
Yes.
All is great, both sides. What you're gonna do as a group now is,
Okay.
each person is gonna spend about 10 minutes coming up with 10 concepts or problem solutions. The idea is to not spend more than 1 minute on each solution. Don't get too attached. Come up with the idea, get it down on paper, and move on to the next idea, right?
Both in physical and online presence. Patrons, visitors, staff, and volunteers, how they're going to address them. How to train.
All right, 1, 2, 3, go. Is everybody clear? Does everybody have any?
All of it, however, we don't have enough
Fantastic.
cards. All right, here's what we're working on. Address person.
Diversity.
Now, remember, the word no is not allowed,
And
especially
anything
not
goes.
allowed from you as the creator.
Well, are we supposed to, how do we identify those who are diverse?
That's one of the things we're gonna solve.
So how would we identify that to somebody?
You're gonna tell
Like,
us.
what are the parameters of neurodiversity?
It says in all, in any,
So any and all,
both in physical and online presence.
okay,
Amanda
so,
says it's however you want to interpret the question.
okay.
Yeah.
So like
think that's what we've been
neurodiversity,
given.
that could be like sensory, even like people have sensory processing disorder.
Yeah.
Like when he made the comment, you know, it never hurts to go in a straight line, like it always pays to be. Just going in a straight line, like I have
Me on
a
track.
deficit disorder. I never do anything in a straight line. Like you ever see that little kid book Eloise? And she lives in the plaza.
Yeah.
It's like, that's my brain,
Oh, wow.
Right.
Okay.
right? So.
I'm not sure if any of you ever saw the
if
movie
there
House Party,
were
but
Exhibits where it's
every
like,
minute I'm trying to
no,
yell,
you
switch,
don't go down that
Oh, no.
exhibit,
No.
switch.
stay here.
Next idea.
Yeah.
Don't move on, or, you know, especially too, like when you have ADHD, like.
I have no idea what this is.
Or it's like, I'm too quick to speak.
Yeah.
So what would that be for art? And move on from the piece too quickly. Did I catch everything? So there would be like, it would be great if art, I mean, obviously, there's the relationship of the art and the artist, but I feel there's like a standard canon. What if all of those points could be shared?
Yeah.
Right?
Well, that's one thing I was saying was like, how do we create new and diverse ways to experience art, right? That it doesn't have to be just, you know, like if it's a performing art, you're not just sitting and watching.
Well, you know, like
Right.
they have their.
How do you-
That you've heard been at the theater. like, box seats,
Yeah.
Or like an amusement park ride that's like immersive.
Yeah.
You know, what if there's a way to recreate movement in the audience?
Are we doing this about art or just everyday life?
Everything.
I mean, this is for
I
everything.
feel like it's everything.
Yeah.
Because he, you know, what is it, the 130 ways for the peanut, pieces of a peanut?
I am
Like,
like,
he's got
It's
139
education on.
for haptic.
I would say with addressing neurodiversity also, because they say specifically like visitors, staff, volunteers,
Yeah.
patrons, all that. I mean, just as simple as training for staff and volunteers to understand, right?
Right.
Right, you
But
just gotta
also,
create those training
haptics is something that
opportunities.
you should, just like everything else, be able to opt in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
right?
We still have to
Because
sensitize our staff. I
It's
mean,
like,
we're here.
you know, sometimes I'm very.
Switch.
They have
Yeah.
to know that they're gonna be experiencing that happening.
You can put your thoughts on paper. You don't have solutions, then you have questions that might be the solutions. Feel free to jot those down as well.
Learn a better way, one specific way better than somebody would teach, like you were saying, your brain is like a curvy line, and not a straight line. Having that teacher know, or kind of let them guide how they would be taught, but their brain might work a specific way and they might have to be taught that specific way and kind of going at their pace, I guess, to learn their learning style.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, maybe going in a straight line through an exhibit might be egregiously painful. If you're like, this is the way my brain works.
Right.
And then the exhibit tapers you, how your sort of natural flow,
Yeah.
then it wouldn't be boring. Like, oh, you know,
Switch.
Yeah, because one of the other things I have is that, like, how do we, and I think that's kind of like what we were talking about before, but how do we create a space that everyone can be a well, right? That it doesn't matter, like, if you're, I mean, that's really everything that we're doing, but how do you create that, like, creating a space that you can go around and experience it on a curvy path, or a straight path, or a touching path, or to yourself path, or listening path, right? How do you, like, yeah,
yeah, I mean.
creating spaces where everyone gets to do it.
So, you know, like some of our, like they're 3D experiences in the sense that like you're entering an architectural space. You know, like, there's like the artist personality, like he would create rooms that would make people feel comfortable type of thing. Is there, what if there is haptic art that includes the senses? That's weird towards like, maybe we need to change what our definition of art is. You know, like what if there was an exhibit that was just completely just focused on the sense of
What?
the sense of the physical
But what does that look like? Art that's just focused on the inside.
Exactly. What would that look like?
But it
Doesn't
used-
have to look like something.
I mean,
Or
I
does-
mean,
can it
you
just feel
came
like
up with the
something?
idea. What does it
No,
look
that's
like
what
to
I'm saying.
you?
I think
How
the
do we
idea.
have art that doesn't do anything? And it's only for the
You'd
senses.
have to be like, it's evoking something, right? Art, dance, all these things are evocative experiences. So let's say you created something kind of like, you know, like the scary Halloween movies, you're blindfolded, right? You put your hand in the bowl. You know, and, but that gross out feeling is.
Switch.
So you had something that was like very beautiful.
I can't remember, maybe have, like you have two more.
And all of it is supposed to be a collage of experience.
It makes me think of like the movie theaters that you go and you have electricity and you have like the wind on you. Like,
Yes,
like the
yes,
vibrates and
yes,
stuff.
like Soren and.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, you're.
Well, and they make like scent cannons where you
Yeah.
can like put a certain scent in and like fill the space with
Yeah.
scents.
You know, like animals kind of can like, I mean, they're sensing something around that. It's like not a smell, but it's something.
Yeah.
Energy.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, there's something
But I
I was
guess I
thinking and then.
kind of often wonder if we're so in the phone that we're actually killing our third eye. Right?
Yeah.
And that's not being purposeful about.
Switch.
I think also like,
What if,
thinking about like
Yeah,
young
work with
people,
what?
because I work mostly with young people with, with neurodiversity, like, one of the big things is how do you, is like creating a space that they can escape anything that feels overwhelming,
Now,
right?
usually around
Create
now, you start
something
running out of.
Like having
ideas.
earphones,
Keep
accessible, having a space where they can remove
After
themselves
a
to go
terrifying
somewhere
thing
else.
come out, that's
When
a
they
great
start
idea.
feeling overwhelmed,
Yeah,
right?
running out
Creating
of
that
ideas.
ghost escape
Happens.
pods.
Okay.
That's, yeah. What if, I think this would be hard to recreate, like you can figure out and map out somebody's movement, but obviously for paintings that are already painted, you can figure it out. What if from conception to, execution to final product, you had an artist or something from brush.
Swear. Last minute.
So when somebody was blind, they could feel, like, there's a poem, Raymond Carver wrote, I think it's the Cathedral, right? And it's just this whole idea, like, if you were, actually wearing something where you were doing the strokes of the artist,
That's really
it's
cool.
painted, right?
Yeah.
I'm thinking.
But that would have to be captured from the beginning. Right.
Kind of like yeah.
That's cute.
Yeah.
I know.
Mhm.
It's a lot of behavior. Yeah, because they are, I'm not leaving for that.
I'm sure there's a way.
And second.
I'm sure there's a way. I'm sure there's a way. That would be better.
Imagine and
Yeah.
figure out how the paint are and then build something like that
Yeah.
from an.
Like, what if you were like, lay here on your back and be like Michelangelo?
Drop some of your ideas in the chat so we can hear them. I'm gonna go around here a bit. Yeah, guys, bit of time extra in case you need it.
Is there anything else? But neurodiversity, I think the idea of neurodiversity is very limited. Like, some people don't want to necessarily out themselves.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, if you tell somebody you have an ADHD diagnosis or,
20 seconds left, you're in the final push.
It is sometimes hard to know, what of it.
right, or if you're like, I have autism level 1, they'd be like, oh, well, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
3, 2, 1, all right,
But maybe it's
pencils down.
created more ways that people could think that.
Give you a second to wrap up your last sentence. Cool. So, first of all, how was that experience? Sorry, you're all designers now, right? Feels good? You found a billion solutions?
But kind
Yeah.
of, we're all like
Cool.
in science fiction.
That is where you need to go, because, I mean, honestly, like, no one cared about a hoverboard until we saw Back to the Future too. And humanity had to do, right? Fiction has a powerful narrative to play in it, so it's great to draw on those elements. All right, so now, what I'd like for you to do is I wanna do a bit of a stand-up at each table, and just kind of like, I don't know, if I'm not sure if you guys did it as a group, as one bounds, you can kind of like, one person can share for the group. If everybody kind of did their own thing, like, maybe we can get one from each person of the ideas that you developed, right? So I'm gonna like ask your table what challenge you got. And then whoever made that challenge, you guys will raise your hand so that we know whose problem we're solving. And then, we can go at it, okay? So I'm gonna start with I'll call table number 1 over here.
And we do the card that we were given.
Yeah, the card that you were given. So what's the card that you were given?
How do you make important announcements for your community? Example, visually impaired, hearing impairment and mobility, yeah. So how to make important announcements for.
Perfect. Okay, so what are some of the ideas that you came up with?
Some of them that we came up with, a lot of things that we already do at our own organization, but like speaker announcements, and if it's something that someone has a hearing problem or anything like that, then emailing them the announcement as well, kind of just get that all out there, but if it's bigger than like the organization, large print flyers, QR codes on those flyers for maybe someone that maybe should use that QR code. Haley brought up, audio recording and stuff like that, recording that and putting that on there so people can listen to it themselves. Contrast colors and stuff like that.
Fantastic. You know, one of the most easy things that you can do to be accessible as an organization is to build accessible templates for your documents so that everyone already understands what they have to do and they don't have to build that boat from scratch. Again? 1 second. Take some tea time.
Oh, you know, what the ballet does, that's sensory show.
Yeah.
Where it's like, you know, they can see.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, okay. So here's what I have you do. The next person, because we have the microphone up here, I think it got a lot of your text. I'm gonna have the next person for the next table come up here so that the online people can hear as well. Okay? All right. Table number 2. Do we have a representative or you want to give round robin one each?
I'll do, I've been taking.
Go ahead.
notes, I'll go.
Thank you, yes.
All right, oh, shoot. I forgot what our problem was.
Yeah. I'm not happy with design, you know?
All right, the problem we were given was addressing neurodiversity, both in physical and online presence, such as patrons, visitors, staff, and volunteers. Some of the things we talked about were creating training for all staff and volunteers to be able to assist folks as they come in, making a space that we can all experience in diverse ways, such as like, you know, different paths to be able to navigate through. Read my handwriting, creating multi-sensory experiences, so allowing people to be able to touch as necessary, but also creating escape spaces for when things may start getting overwhelming. And how do you kind of go from what you want and build back to create that same feeling of art, right? So like if you can't go up and touch brush strokes, how do you recreate that in a way so that everyone can experience it? And also creating a space where someone doesn't need to out themselves in order to get what it is that they want and they need themselves.
Yes.
And then at the very end, we were talking about doing sensory friendly performances for performing arts.
Awesome. Thank you
Good
so much.
job. That was great.
Okay, table number 3.
Did the best I could.
You did a great job.
All right.
This was fantastic. Hope you had to take it. No, this is some good stuff
Yeah,
here.
yeah, definitely.
All right, so our problem was primarily online and digital interpretation. Yeah, so text-based interpretations online and digital viewing such as alt text or captions. So some of the solutions we came up with kind of vary depending on what people needed via digital interpretation. So we talked about having text or captions in multiple languages. Specifically hiring people to write captions for videos, rather than relying on auto generation, which have often a lot of problems depending on people's accents or speech patterns and things like that, so you don't always pick up some of those nuances, so having a real person listen and create captions is usually very helpful. Can be costly, but it's, I think, a very good solution to a lot of issues that come from just auto generation. Doing things like video recordings and text to speech, like for example, I come from a museum background, so having labels in person, but then having potential like videos alongside it of narrators kind of reading the captions for you, so you're not necessarily relying just on sight. Or having text to speech for those who are visually impaired as well. Also, we talked about having things like ASL videos displayed to help kind of bridge that gap as well. So those were some of ours.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. You put a bunch of smart people and give them some problems and look what happens. Oh, gee. All right, table number 4.
Okay.
Welcome. Come on down.
So the problem we were given was how to include captions in a variety of formats. So in the dark, stadiums, and with small objects, so that was the prompt. So we came up with a couple ideas, closed caption, an app that you could log into that would then play the closed captioning on your phone at a big event like a Chiefs game. A bracelet that could play closed captioning in the dark so that it would be lit up so you could like read your bracelet. AR glasses that capture live closed captioning as you're walking around. So it would just be in your vision. A chair with technology to bring up closed captioning, like make it part of office furniture in general. We had no price, so. A holographic icon that you can put on small objects that would pop up. Closed captioning. You can pop up ASL interpretation in hologram, so. Refreshable braille closed captioning. Use color coding in closed captioning to make it better reflect emotion. And then we also talked about using a script and pre-scripting it, so you can plan it and make the closed captioning more robust and stay the script.
Star Craft. That's my jam. You know what I'm saying? These days now with my shows. Haptic 9, you see it, I like that 9 number.
Haptic 9.
All right, table number 5. Yes. Come on down.
Sure. And so we all work on this individually, so we're gonna do a round robin real fast. But our prompt was adjustable lighting, thinking of people with visual impairments, thinking of those with sensory sensitivities. And so I've got a couple like flexibility from the organization as far as making office changes, like light bulb changes, flexible schedules, modifying dress code to allow for hats and sunglasses, or the ability to like move desks and closed door office options for those who are not just, you know, C-suite folks, but who need that kind of thing. And maybe like a safe dark room for all if someone really needs that moment to step aside.
I had something very similar in my list, but I also come from a performing arts institution, so I also was trying to think through that lens. When we've been talking about doing sensory friendly performances, so performances where the lighting, the lights in the house stay up, but everything else is on the stage, brought down and just adjusting all of kind of the sensory elements of the performance for the audience. But also I like the idea of being more thoughtful in the design from the inception. How can we be more thoughtful with our theatrical design to make it more accessible from a number of levels, depending on who is coming into our space, and thinking about all of our spaces a little more intentionally when we are designing them. Again, I think flexibility in the work environment is super important. A room full of cubicles with fluorescent lighting doesn't work for many people, but some people it really is detrimental to them. So how can we be more thoughtful in our design from the inception?
Well, I come from a museum background and this question is something we do think about, so I was ready to think about it a little deeper. Handheld models of what we're looking at, so you can touch it, maybe even a hybrid of a handheld and an audio. So you're going on a story, you're learning the story, whatever the object is, in multiple ways. I also was thinking about how do we make these sensory events more permanent. We often do one-offs on things, but how can we build a balance in our museum? And thinking about light, do we have some low light, some a little brighter? Also that goes along with noise, permanent areas that you can be a little bit more active, a little bit more loud, and places that you know that you can find a respite within the museum. Let's see, and even visually, if you are a person that sees well, but just visually you're getting overwhelmed by all of the things you're looking at, how do we change that in our space so that there are places that the eye can rest and absorb what they're trying to interpret, and areas where maybe you're getting a little bit more going on at once?
Fantastic. Amazing, amazing. All right, table 6, right over here. These are some fantastic ideas.
Hello.
Hello.
So our problem was disability representation in staffing. So first we need to make sure that the applications are accessible. Second, create an advisory committee that focuses on these issues. Third, create a hiring committee and make sure that staff that have disabilities have accessibility training, training workshops, professional developments. Number 4, advertise the jobs to differently able communities in the area. 5, make your workplace accessible before you even hire anyone. 6, make it a safe space, make your workplace a safe space for staff to share disabilities and concerns. 7, and this works for everyone, make sure that staff wellness is a priority. 8, retain disability staff, ask what is needed to ensure that they stay longer than just a few months. 9, make sure that the benefits package is appealing for people with disabilities. And finally, create an audit of the company from experts with focus groups on disability.
Hiring is a major issue and challenge in the disability space, so glad to see that that question got bubbled up and tackled. All right, table number 7. Welcome, welcome. You're welcome.
Right. We had lack of ASL interpreters. So we're gonna combine these. The highlights are making ASL more accessible in school, similar to Spanish, French. Require ASL classes for jobs. Yeah. Creating like a corporate initiative, ASL learning, so it's more, it's everywhere and people realize that it is necessary. And let's see, don't go the AI route or as much, loses the connection, but the connection part of that. But at the same time, maybe there is a point to have maybe a robot that has that accessibility. Let's see. Also, offer more scholarships that have towards interpretations. Yeah, okay.
Everything else, that's it?
Yeah.
Fantastic. I like, if ASL was on Duolingo, that's how I learned Swedish. Skål, right? Okay,
Maybe you could wear gloves.
now, we got everybody, right? How are we doing on time? You got 5 minutes, we're doing good, okay, cool. So now, here's the last piece of the pie. You did all fantastic, you're all now officially designers. I give you the badge of designership. You are now capable and willing to go and make change in your workplaces and lives that you see fit as necessary, because that's what we do as designers. We see problems and we go and solve them. So congratulations on a job very, very well done. And also too, you inspired a lot of other people with your ideas by collectively pinning together the tiny efforts. You were able to make a big impact on this whole room. And again, a lot of people in this room, I'm not sure if you met each other yet, but like, you're doing amazing things. So this is like a fantastic room to be able to impact in this particular way, right? Now, what I'm gonna have you do is while you're at your table with strangers, I want you to grab one person and like, that's gonna be your partner. And what you're gonna do is, you can either take something that you developed on someone else's idea, or you can take something that was on your plate. And I want you to try something that's very low hanging fruit, something that's very easy to implement. And you're gonna try to implement it in the next month, right? Printing in larger print. Pushing in all the chairs after everyone leaves, so our people with visual impairments don't have issues. Right? You know what I'm saying? Like adding audio or text captions to your videos and making sure they're accurate. Add some typos in mine myself.
Oh, never mind.
Oh, sorry, do we have a question?
No.
You
I'm
sure?
sorry.
Okay, perfect, perfect. All right, so you can either grab one of your solutions that you wanted to work on, or some of the solutions that you worked on for your group inspired you. You can grab one of those, or if you heard a solution up here that you know, wow, that would work for my organization, just take it. I'm giving you permission, it's okay, you know what I'm saying, we're sharing. Question?
Can we have a list of all the ideas that were presented today, like sent out on an email?
Yeah.
For those of us who can't.
Yes, it'll go out this week or next week.
Yeah.
Fantastic, there we go, we got a group ideas box.
Okay.
I'm just wondering if there's other organizations, and I can speak for ourselves, because this is us, who we can provide some solutions. We're Audio Reader Network, and if anyone's interested in making print material accessible in audio format, that's what we do.
Fantastic.
But there may be more solutions in the room that are right there. So
Fantastic. And also too, I think if you have a solution that you're offering, put that on your card. We'll take that card from you. And that way we can just like add that to the list of stuff that goes out and people come to dig into what's in here in the community. It's fantastic. Thank you for bringing that up.
Card or something.
Oh, one second, please.
Going to be presenting in our next workshop, that's what we're working for, so I'm glad that Nick was able to mention his service. So if you all are interested in coming to the next workshop, which will be in February, we'll be able to hear from our friends at Audio Reader Network.
Fantastic. Audio Reader Network is gonna do the next talk in February for our online people who didn't hear that. So join us again, all right? So now what you're gonna do is you're gonna grab one partner, right? And that partner is gonna be your accountability partner. And in 2 weeks, you're gonna have a check-in. And if you want, my email is on here. You can add me to the check-in. I'm happy to take the email too. Let me know what you've done. Let me know what you've had any challenges with, right? Or let each other know. Add me if you want to. I'm happy to be part of the conversation. Okay? So grab your partner, and then in the meantime, we have about 1 minute. I'm gonna show you one of my tiny accessibility wins, right? So when I was picking the colors for my company, I decided that, wow, you know, I should do this contrast thing from the ground up, right? So the first thing I did is I went to this app called Adobe Color. And then I had them do, they have an accessibility tool tab, it's the fourth one from the top. I had them go through and show me the colorblind simulator for different types of color blindness, right? Some of the color blindness looks better than my original design, right? So I feel like looking at the colors together and different ways of color blindness, so I can get a sense of how people might respond to it. I also was able to go through and put text on top of text. And it gives me the contrast ratio, and it tells me whether it passes for 17 points and below, 18 and above, or icons. Now, this one happened to pass for all three of them. I have a light blue and a very, very dark blue. Right? This is the reverse of that. With the light blue underneath the dark blue, right? It still all passes. Now, one of my middle blue colors doesn't sit so well. You can read it for the graphics and for large text, but for regular text, it fails.
Contrast.
Right? I thought this was so easy for me to see, it failed everything. You know what I'm saying? Like, so what do? I don't put light blue on red. Now, I did some of these accessibility mistakes in my presentation on purpose, where I used a red 9 on a light blue that was super thin. And like, I know a lot of people couldn't see that, but I put that there because I was hoping that, like, you know, by the time I got here, someone was like, that was intentional, it wasn't an accident, right? You know what I'm saying? Because you get to see, right? Same thing. Now, for me, this is a bit hard to read with the dark red and the dark blue, but for the bigger and the icon, it passes, but it fails for smaller, right? I also was looking at like doing a different color originally. I was thinking this orange would be really fly. It was contrasting to all my blues right across from the color wheel, right? But when I put my options together, I didn't have as many high contrast options to choose from. Whereas with the reds and blues, it gave me more high contrast combinations to use. And when I don't care about the contrast because it's like a graphic or texture in the background, then I'll put colors that don't necessarily have that contrast piece, but still might be able to show a visual like gradation. Right? So these are the colors that I actually ended up with for my design. because I went through Adobe Color and I picked my colors intentionally from the beginning. And I also don't put, you know, I use my dark text and my light text like together when I'm doing text. When I'm doing big bold stuff, I might have something in big and red, right? I use this as a guide of figuring out where my text should look like, what my background should look like on different texts, and how big I can display text in different colors, right? So this was my small accessibility one, right? It doesn't have to be life changing, but a lot of tiny wins and you end up with a great experience. So again, here's my QR code. Thank you so much for joining us and looking forward to hearing about some of your initiatives over the next month. Cheers.
Before you get going, we do have parking passes. Jackie has parking passes for you. So if you came in through, you park in the parking garage, you just take one of those with you and hand it with your, the ticket that you got when you came into the parking garage. Also, we have, set up for all of you to attend the Hokusai exhibition if you'd like to. We have undated ticket vouchers at the information desk under AAGKC. You can just go and tell them you're with AAGKC, they'll give you a voucher. You can use it today if you'd like to stay, or you can come back another day. This the Hokusai exhibition is here through the very first week of January, January 5th. Great, so thank you. Thanks for coming.
Thank you. Fantastic. And accessibility designer now.
That was really good. All right, so what do you need to work on? Well, I'm gonna figure out.
Yeah, I think, because we're, like, a bunch of the stuff that I was listing on, was something we already knew.